All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. I have Ray Ratke and Lisa Morgan from Lutheran Family Services of Virginia with us today. We've been working with them for a long time now, one of our favorite nonprofits that we work with. So I thought I'd take some time and chat with the two of you. If you could tell us kind of your roles and what you do, that'd be a great place to start, and then maybe a little bit about LFSVA. So,
Ray, I'm going to let you go first.
I was going to let you go first. All right. Well, I'm Ray Radke, and not Lisa Morgan. Lisa Morgan's over there. I can see her. I'm the CEO of Lutheran Family Services of Virginia. We are a nonprofit organization. We're 132 years old in Virginia. We operate human services of various types around the state, schools for kids with special needs, supports and residential services for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, foster care and adoption, immigration-related services, and mental health, behavioral health services. So for both kids and adults. So we have about 400 or so employees, then another couple hundred contractors that we manage and work closely with. So, Lisa.
My name is Lisa Morgan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. My role is probably more focused internally, working with the program directors and sort of the day-to-day operations. We touch the lives of about 800 people a day through the services that Ray mentioned.
Great, thank you. And I know we've talked about this before, but one of the things that I think that people don't understand is in a lot of cases, the individuals that you work with really have no place else to go. They're, they, particularly in the schools, the current school systems that they're in just can't handle them. So they move on to you. And I think that's important to point out for sure. So tell me, how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted your organization, and what are you struggling with around that?
Lisa, you want to go?
And having spoken with lots of our colleagues around the state and the country and hearing about what some other organizations are dealing with, I have to say I am regularly inspired by our staff. You can't prepare for something like this, but our staff literally from day one they just adapted. There was never even a misstep in serving the people we serve. It was about finding new ways to serve the people we serve. So what we're doing today does not look the same, but I believe the impact we're having is the same in the sense that our educational staff immediately started preparing for remote instruction, and they have, they've rolled that out so successfully that we are serving basically the same number of students we were serving when we were in classrooms. And that's credit to all of our educational staff. In our developmental services division, we had to suspend any kind of group activities that we were doing, like our day support programs, because we couldn't do that safely and we weren't allowed to anymore. So we shifted the focus we have day support staff working in our residential programs with a lot of the same people that were in day support programs. So, and then in our group homes, our direct support professionals have been unwavering. They're following new protocols and practices. They get their temperature checked every day. They're all wearing masks. They're keeping themselves safe and the people they serve safe. And then in some of our other services, we went to telehealth. So where we have clinicians and counselors who would normally meet with people in person, we're now using online and video platforms to be able to continue to connect with people who need it and actually expand capacity in that area. So, we've shifted a lot, but in many ways, I feel like we haven't missed a beat, and there are actually opportunities to serve even more people right now.
I think that's well said, and I think certainly a crisis like this creates more need for people are scared, they're uncomfortable, they want to talk to somebody, all of those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're preparing ourselves to step into that role. On a leadership team level, in terms of what we're doing differently or how it's impacted us. And in a lot of ways, I feel it has helped us. It has, yeah, I truly do. It's interesting, because it's caused us to work closer together, even though we're apart. We probably meet more now. We absolutely meet more now, and in that sense, meeting virtually, we're seeing each other more than we had in the past. In terms of laying eyes on each other, even through a camera. We're the struggle with adapting has caused us to kind of clarify how we're going to work together, and we've kind of come to it, I think, as a team and as kind of leadership, we're functioning at a higher level than we were 3 months ago. It's caused us to sharpen our communications. So really, we have a great communications team that we're very fortunate because they just kind of all came on to us within the last 10 months or so. And fortunately for us that we have that team, because it's helped us to better communicate with staff and be more intentional and purposeful about it. And that it has, I think, strengthened our organization. So, it's probably not unusual in many ways. This kind of situation does cause an organization to, either struggle more than they were, or kind of rise up to a different level. And I think that's what's happened for us.
That's great to hear. So I don't even know how many weeks we've all been working from home now.
Mm-hmm.
9, maybe. I don't know. But how have your employees adjusted to that, and kind of what's working well and what's not?
Well, one of the things, at least, there's different levels of adjustment, I think. For us, because we're spread across the state, and because we're for many of us, we had been working from home anyway when we weren't traveling. So now just can work from home every day. It's what we had been doing. And so I think there was still some adjustment, but I think a little less so. I think staff have, and Lisa may know more about this than I do, I think for the most part, staff have made a pretty good adjustment to that. I think there's some people, they've never worked from home before, so it took some initial kind of, all right, how do I figure out how to do this? Where am I going to be? And all those other basic questions of how you manage it. But I think for the most part, they've managed that pretty well. Lisa, you may have some thoughts about that.
I agree with everything you said. We've managed well because we really did have a big segment of our workforce was working remotely anyway. But as Ray said earlier, it's interesting that I've heard it said, and I feel the same way, that we've never felt more connected. Because now we're all turning our cameras on.
Right.
We have regular meetings, and that goes all the way through all the levels of the organization. The leadership team meets more regularly, and then we meet with our staff more regularly, and so on and so on. So, we're definitely missing that piece of being able to go and sit and meet. But everybody's in the same boat, and Ray went out on the road last week and just went around to each of our group homes and stopped by and just to say hi and thank you. And it's the kind of the culture that we have in our organization. We're going to connect however and whenever we can. So I have to say, I think we've adjusted very well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Well, one of the things, Ro, and with this, we got your help with this, and we were just very lucky to move when we did, to replace all of the equipment that we have.
Yeah.
At your recommendation, right?
Yeah.
Because now, as somebody pointed out to us this morning on a call, if we hadn't have done that, a lot of people, we would have been really scrambling, because people were still working on desktops in an office, So
yeah.
And maybe weren't comfortable doing work on their home computer if they had one, that kind of thing. So,
Right.
So that it was really good timing.
Yeah. Well, and when you flip to video, having newer machines, the processor speeds are going to make that so much better. I mean, I think in the old environment, I'm not sure we would have been able to do video like we are now.
Right.
You know, and that certainly would have been challenging. So if you had a crystal ball and knew about all this coming a year ago, what would you have done to plan for it, and what would you have done differently?
Well, I think we probably, there's a couple things. One, one of our guiding principles of our organization is that our success is based on the success of our relationships.
Right.
And a lot of what I think we've been through and our success in terms of getting kids into distance learning has been because of our history of relationships with our school divisions. And there's examples of that in all of the other services. And I think, though, one of the things, probably a year ago now looking back on it and the importance of that, there's probably other things we could have done to enhance those relationships. And moving forward, we want to take some of those steps and making sure that, we are very connected and we're responsive and providing the care and the services that people want and that our referral sources want. So, because then we can work with them about how do we continue to deliver some service on some level. But that goes for internally in our relationships with staff and others. I think we didn't have that crystal ball, but we did focus on technology upgrades, and I think we certainly would have furthered that. I think those are the big things that popped to mind for me. And Lisa, do you have?
I can't think of a workforce that could have been better prepared for something like this, because when I think about what our employees do every day, they deal with so much unpredictability. They don't know what they're going to step into every day. Right. Our teachers are working in a school environment. They're not sure what's going to happen each day with the students they serve. The people that work in our group homes have dealt with illness and death, and they just seem so prepared. I mean, I think we could have stockpiled PPE.
Yeah.
And they start.
Yeah. The other thing, I was listening to a presentation the other day, and this phrase, it just sticks with me. And the woman who was speaking said, COVID has accelerated trends that were there before. And I think about that in our industry and how our direct line workforce has now been thrust into the spotlight. Our teachers, people have never appreciated teachers as much as they do now. And our teachers work with kids with, very specific support needs. And then our direct support professionals, they are essential workers. These are people that are caring for people. They're giving meds, they're bathing, they're dressing, they're feeding. They are equally as important as our healthcare workers. And so, we've done a lot of advocacy in the past for our staff, and now it feels like there's no better opportunity to share the stories of what these guys are doing every day.
Right.
One of the interesting things that we're just started talking about really is when you start thinking about where we get to on the other side of this as an organization, and especially when it comes to service delivery, is now we're gaining new skills. And we're being forced to, but we're gaining new skills, and there's opportunities to put those skills to work when we get through the other side. So like in schools, when we have kids now in a classroom, we also have the capacity to touch base with them in the evening or after school, or touch base with their families through video in a way that we never would have considered before this. Even though the technology was there, we didn't even think about it. Right. So it's that kind of stuff. I think that acceleration, as Lisa was saying, of trends, there's tremendous opportunity here on the trends that we're being pushed into embracing. We're seeing the potential there of that opportunity.
Right. Well, and I wonder too, even, with the embracing of video technology, which is not something any of us ever considered that you would do for serving your populations. We have to now. Does that allow you to expand your services maybe into regions where you haven't been able to work before, or
Yes,
populations.
yeah, absolutely. And so we were as Lisa said, we've converted all of our outpatient counseling for children and adults to telehealth. So it's now being only done through video conferencing. And the regulations got loosened up because of this crisis to allow us to do that. But now it kind of, you go, oh, so a therapist doesn't have to be in my neighborhood or my area, my town. I can access that. People can access that from any place that they are, so that's like, that always was there with telehealth, but we didn't really kind of go, oh, this is what this means.
Yeah. It's been a learning exercise for all of us. So around that, has there been any particular technology, and it certainly does not have to be a Microsoft technology that we work with, but is there anything that's really made a difference for you as far as kind of pulling everything together and being able to continue to function?
Well, I think, it was a good thing for us to do the session with you on Teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think our executive team has embraced Teams as the tool, so we haven't yet kind of gotten deeper in with all of the capacity that you talked with us about. I think it's a big advance over Skype, and we had been using Skype.
Right.
I told a colleague that is in Washington State, outside Seattle, that we were using Skype, and he said, do you still use pencils and paper too? It's like, are you using stone tablets? What are you doing?
Nice.
So we were a little late coming to that, I think. We have used Zoom for some larger meetings, but I think we will continue probably to use both of those. But I am thinking that especially as our executive team, I think there's a lot of potential in Teams that we haven't used yet. I'm thinking about on the service delivery level as well. Lisa, do you think maybe?
Well, we are using things like FaceTime when we're in some of our programs. Our case managers would typically visit some of our we call them family care homes. They're sponsored residential. It's kind of like adult foster care for you'd have someone with a disability living with a family. But these visits are now being done using video conferencing. A lot of times it's FaceTime, but it's still an opportunity to see somebody and kind of look around, because part of what we have to do is just kind of walk through the home and make sure the person's bedroom is still, it's their bedroom, and that everything's in order, the paperwork's in order. So those kinds of things. And something else, we use robocalls, where we have we're able to send out voicemail messages to large numbers of staff. So in our educational services, we might need to send just a quick message to 100+ employees, and it's much easier to just kind of do a quick voicemail message. So we're definitely using everything we have and looking for opportunities and to see where there might be other things that could help us out.
We're also using and just switched to a tool that's a video platform for doing telehealth that combines an electronic health record with the video capacity and with billing. So we've just gotten started providing that, or using that. And I can't remember what name it is of it.
Simple Practice.
Simple Practice. Not
that could be interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
So what help does your organization need in order to continue to provide services? So, how can people help you? What are the things people can do?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest needs that we're still struggling with is, so as the population, especially in our schools that we serve, are in many cases, I think over 60% of the students we have are on the lunch program, and which puts them at a certain level in terms of income. They're often in rural areas where there's not a lot of internet access anyway, but for a number of our students and their families, they don't even have internet access. So for either because they can't afford it or because it's not easily available to them. So, one of the things we've been looking for is, we're going to have to, because they don't have that themselves, along with they don't have basic equipment, don't have a computer generally in the house, don't have a tablet or some other mechanism for us to do that instructional activity during, through video. So we're having to help them solve their kind of technology issues and lack of access. And so that's one place for sure that we could use some help.
Okay. So we'll get a link from you so that if people want to donate and contribute and help, we'll go ahead and we'll post that.
That would be fantastic.
Happy to do that. Well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. It's always great to see you. I can't wait until I can see you in person.
Yeah. We appreciate your support, Ro.
Yeah, Ro, we really do. Makes a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
You too.